Ivan Katz here, and behind me an SUV that actually came out before SUVs were popular. It's part Italian, part American, and very luxurious, and I think very, very cool. I've bought this thing, so did I make a mistake? Will I be impressed? Let's find out. Well, in terms of its styling, it definitely looks powerful. It looks like it can definitely handle the off-road, and it's definitely got a cool red Italian Ferrari sort of look. So yeah, I think looks-wise, it's definitely impressive. Form following function, I'll tell you about the famous designer later, but it's definitely a rugged-looking SUV, that's for sure. It's large and in charge, pretty tall, pretty wide. I wouldn't say it's very long though, but its dimensions definitely make it a usable vehicle, and I think with the red paint scheme, it definitely tells you that it's from Italy, of course, along with the Ferrari stickers all over the place too. There's a clue about who designed it, and more clues about its power prowess, which is definitely supercharged. Pretty cool. And I think it looks great, despite the fact that somebody misspelled the name of the car on the front there. Tells you it's a LaForza on the side, on the step. That's pretty cool. Inside, you see how wide it is. It's almost, but not quite, Hummer-like, but certainly a big vehicle inside. It was designed so that people have a lot of room to spread out in. There's nothing more luxurious than space, lots of space, and of course leather. And you've definitely got room to spread out even in back. And it does say LaForza everywhere. I think the interior's held up pretty well. There's some cracking on the front seat here, but it's pretty soft still. And you've got these huge armrests too that come down. Pretty cool. Large storage in the middle that you can lock. 2 cup holders, the 4-speed automatic transmission, power windows, a handbrake, a dated but period correct radio, the ventilation controls and such here, and I think the wood's been covered up because it probably started to look bad over the years. And there you go, LaForza Speciale, huge headliner here, and just a pretty luxurious look. Nice luxurious design with that Pininfarina steering wheel, the white gauges, pretty cool. Tachometer, speedometer, water temperature, oil, gas, and a voltmeter as well, along with a whole slew of warning lights up top there. It does have a lockable glove box, which is nice, and I'm really not sure what this Enzo Ferrari Special Edition badge is all about, but it does look cool. I definitely wanted that included in the sale. That really sets off the interior, doesn't it? Anyway, lots of luxury, lots of room for the time with these power seats and everything. This was quite a luxurious ride, especially with all that subtle leather. The fancy look carries over to the doors as well. And out back, your own magazine racks, and of course, Italian ashtray, your own vents, and your own speakers too. But more importantly, lots of room for, you could probably fit 4 people there if you wanted to, if they're not too big, but certainly a lot of leg room too. Up front and on the side here is where you pop the trunk, and that trunk is quite spacious. You got a full-size spare, and in this case the 4-wheel drive differential. It was taken off, I was told, because the 2 prior owners ago wanted to get better fuel economy, and I'll give you those specs later. You'll see why. Not the best fuel economy, but a very large and very practical and spacious sport utility vehicle. Keys similar to my Lancia Delta Integrale's keys. Check out my review of that one elsewhere on YouTube. So the LaForza in America gets the Ford 5-liter, the 302
makes 225 horsepower unless it's supercharged like this one is. And if it is, you get up to 300 horsepower. It's not super quick, but it was quick back in the day. 0 to 60 in about 8 seconds. Fuel economy, on the other hand, 10 miles per gallon in the city, 13 on the highway, and 11 overall. And it weighs about 4,900 pounds. So definitely a beast of a vehicle, but it's nice to have that reliable Ford running gear.
So the LaForza story really starts out in 1976 with Carrozzeria, that's Italian for builder, basically manufacturer, Fissore, and they built cars like the Monteverdi High Speed and the Di Tommaso Vallelunga. Very cool cars indeed. And one of the daughters of that company, well, they wanted to go ahead into the car business as well, her and her husband, and they didn't want to be associated with the family, so they started Rayton Fissore, and then they built the Magnum, which is basically the father of this LaForza. When it came to America, they changed the name to the Force LaForza, as it means in Italian. So there you go, Rayton Fissore Magnum. So with the Magnum, they really wanted to build a luxury SUV, and they started with the Iveco Industrial Vehicles Corporation in Italy, VM90, and they combined that with like a military Fiat chassis, and it was very rugged. They were used for police, they were used off-road, they were used by the military, and it was designed by Tom Tiarda, who also designed the Fiat Spider. You can check out my full review of the Fiat Spider. And any car, just Google Drivin Ivan in that car. But I had a nice Fiat Spider where I gave the whole story of Tom Tiarda and that sort of thing in that. So check that out elsewhere on YouTube. But he designed it, and yeah, it was kind of square. It kind of looked like the Range Rover that came absolutely 10 years after it. So kudos to Tom Tiarda, because he was forward thinking in that the design of the car and what a luxury SUV should be really didn't change, because it's basically the same shape as that Range Rover of a decade later. So the Magnum was a high-end luxury sport utility vehicle. Now, sport utility vehicle is a phrase that was actually invented by Chrystal, they say. I do have a Chrystal, 1948.5 Chrystal CC sedan Woody. Check that out elsewhere on YouTube as well on my channel. But that term actually goes back to the 40s, so kind of replaced Jeep in a way. But sport utility vehicles were not really luxurious. They were rugged, but they were not luxurious. And that's what was unique about the Magnum. It combined luxury, it combined really over-the-top ruggedness that could withstand what the military and police needed to withstand, and it was brought to a luxury buying clientele in Europe. And it had varied engines for Europe too, like the Alfa Romeo V6. That was available, so that's pretty cool. And you could get it with manual transmission. You could get it with a diesel, which is pretty cool. It had 18 gauge steel body, a rugged box ladder frame, and really high ground clearance too. They changed the body style a bit for the US, and of course they added the Ford 5-liter engine, and later on you could get it supercharged. But basically they restyled the bumpers and taillights as well as the headlights and grille. They also changed the dash and seats as well as the center tunnel and the door panels. You have a very commanding view out in front of this vehicle, and the turning radius is definitely impressive. Same as a Honda Accord from back in the day, and that's just 29 feet. So that is pretty darn cool right there. But just the view out of this SUV is something. You've got these handles, you've got great vision all around you, and of course plenty of room to hold whatever you need, and people too, plus a very large towing capacity as well. Now, in terms of the way it feels to drive, well, power steering is pretty light. It's not as powered as some cars of today's time, or as soft as, say, a Cadillac from the 70s.
but it's a good balance and it's easy to steer with tires this big. And the ride is very, very soft. You don't get heated seats like you have now, but it's a cushy ride and the seats really are comfortable, even though, like I said, they're not heated or ventilated. This was very luxurious just because of the way this vehicle is sprung and its soft ride. I'll take it off the road here and show you how soft the ride is. Really, it's very, very plush. You feel the bumps a little bit, you bounce around a little bit, but it's very, very comfortable and soaks up the bumps very, very well. So it's extremely comfortable and luxurious, even though it's got some get up and go. It's got a throaty exhaust, but it's not super, super quick. It does have, I think, an overdrive mode on the transmission, but basically a quarter-mile time of 16.2 at 84 miles an hour and under 0.7 Gs in terms of lateral grip. So certainly not a sport SUV. Check out my Range Rover Supercharged review if you want to check out a really cool sport SUV. There's a lot of interesting stories about the LaForza. One is that it got into an accident with a large Mercedes sedan and it wasn't even hurt at all, while the Mercedes had to be taken to a body shop immediately and couldn't be driven. And that's true, I've seen pictures of that. So this LaForza is extremely rugged. Did Enzo Ferrari actually drive one of these? There's rumors to that too. It does, after all, have a bulletproof windshield. There was actually a protection version that basically was pretty bulletproof in every aspect. I'm not sure if this one has that bulletproof windshield, but I'll just go with it because it's a cool story. So did Enzo Ferrari drive it? Who knows? But still, very cool story. Another cool fact, it came down the same production line as the Ferrari Testarossa and the Cadillac Alante. That's pretty cool. Also, cool design features about the car. It does have hidden windshield wipers, which was pretty ahead of its time. And it also had body color foam bumpers in the shape of the body, and that really started a trend that has lasted until now, basically, where the bumpers are integrated in the cars. So Tom Tiarda's design was definitely ahead of its time, even if it was boxy and form-following function. Very cool. So the timeline of the Rayton Fissore Magnum was from 1985, basically, until 1988-89, when they were brought to America. They kept being sold in Europe as well, but then they came to America, and from 89 to 93, you had the LaForza 5.0, and then basically from about 1993 on, with a bit of a break there, they went to Dave Hops, who was actually putting V8s into Mazda Miatas. He had a business plan that he heard from somebody else, so he bought like 50 of them, and I think he started with those and modified those with the Ford 302 Supercharged and a better fuel injection and things like that. And he continued building them, and basically you could buy this LaForza up until about 2003. I think it finished with like a 6-liter version, and they were built in Escondido, San Diego at that time. And so there you have it. That is the entire history of the LaForza. So really the story of the LaForza in America is sort of a fairy tale gone bad, I would say. But that's okay, because now you can get them cheap and carry up to 40.5 square feet of cargo. And I would say up to 6 people. If you got kids, certainly could fit 4 of them in that back seat. So up to 6 people, 40.5 square feet of cargo, all in a nice, cushy, off-road capable, all-wheel drive SUV that was way ahead of its time. So they've got this all-new sport utility vehicle that's uber expensive, $34,500 to start, and eventually all the way up to about $70,000 or more. And this was at a time when the average car in the late 80s was about $12,500. So that's a heck of a lot of money. Now,
Fast forward to really later in the 90s, and the SUVs really caught on, and now they're the most popular and highest selling segment of vehicle in America. They account for just about a third of every vehicle that's sold in the world, actually. So SUVs are super popular, but back then, well, they hadn't quite caught on. You did have the Suburban, the Expedition, things like that, Jeeps, of course, Grand Wagoneers, but they weren't really mainstream. The station wagons were still in vogue, and these large SUVs were just not accepted yet. And unfortunately, it was also overpriced against the competition, plus the fact that they had some reliability issues, they didn't sell too well. Only about 1,000 of these ever came to America, so who knows how many of them are left. Now, if you can actually find one for sale, values range from a couple thousand to a really crappy one, all the way up to about $10,000, $12,000, probably for some of the nicer ones out there. And if there's a Survivor that's got low mileages, is in great shape, it's probably worth more than that. But the average price, according to Haggerty, is $4,100. So that leads me to what I really think of this and why I bought it. Well, I think they're pretty cheap. Now, sport utility vehicles are very in fashion, and this one to me is the coolest of them all. Yes, it had its problems when it was priced high, but now that you can get this thing for pennies on the dollar, and it's basically a Ford, so it's pretty easy to maintain here in America. You can get parts and that sort of thing. I think it's just really unique and really, really cool. To me, I'm not scared of the reliability issues and things like that. This one has a weird kill switch for the ignition that I had to deal with, basically a loose connection. And since I did that, it just runs really, really well. It's got definitely problems of an older car in that not everything works perfectly. The heating and cooling, I've heard parts of that were replaced, but they don't really work very well now. So, you know, I've got a lot of cars. Check out What Does Drivin Ivan Drive. So this to me is a fair weathered car that I would take to a car show and have everybody scratching their heads on it. And to me, that's worth the asking price, even of a very nice one, because when people see this thing, they're like, what the heck is it? With the Ferrari badges and that sort of thing. It's a bit over the top, and not to mention the misspelled name on the hood. I'll probably fix that. But the LaForza, you're just not gonna see one at the street light next to you. And to me, driving an SUV or just a special car that stands out like that, well, yes, I'm definitely all about that. I love quirky cars, and the LaForza is a quirky SUV in an age where SUVs are super, super, super popular. So this LaForza to me is the perfect classic car. It's over 25 years old, so you can give it classic registration. Check your state's rules. Around here though you can, and to me, it's just the king of the road. The seating position is so high. That's why a lot of people like these SUVs, because you sit up nice and high. You get a commanding view of everything. The outward view of this is, I think, quite good. You can see all around you. You can carry whatever you need to carry. You can take it off-road, and it's pretty quick too. So there you go. The perfect classic SUV, part Italian, part American, and all quirky. And at today's prices, maybe not back in the day, but at today's prices, combining luxury, huge, huge mass, and just that scratch your head, what the heck is it sort of aspect, yes sir, I'm very, very proud and happy that I got this LaForza. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Check out all of my other videos, disc golf videos, my literal video for Chris Isaac's Wicked Game, my music videos where I play all the instruments. Just Google Drivin Ivan in your favorite car. Of course, like this video, subscribe to me. I also have a Patreon site for those that like my content and want to support me. Also, of course, subscribe, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and just Google Drivin Ivan in your favorite car. Thanks for watching. I'm Drivin Ivan.